I'm going to change all 8 bearings in the Polaris 280. I have these bearing sets right here. I'm going to start with the single wheel, and you'll need to change these bearings if your Polaris is not running too well on the bottom and it's not moving good when it gets to certain areas of the pool. This particular Polaris is probably about 12 years old, I would say, maybe a little bit older. And the first thing you're going to do is you're going to take this nut, this plastic nut off with a screwdriver. Be careful with these because they do break, tend to break. And there's also a nut shield here. And I'll get the wheel off. It should slide right up and off. Just like that. You'll see one bearing here, and you'll see the other one on the inside here.
Okay, so this is a pool car. What? Would it put right
You can't put that right there.
In the bottom, it puts only the motor. You put this Lego piece right here, and now it's done.
See, the bearing is really worn in. It's even actually out of its little casing. I'm going to pull it out with a screwdriver so you can see it. You can pop them out with a screwdriver very easily. And you can see it actually is missing some bearings. Oh, they all came out actually. So even though it looks okay, when you take it off, you'll see that they're pretty worn out. The other one, actually, the casing fell off of it too. So I'm going to go ahead and pull it out. Got the new bearing. I'm going to put one here in the front. I'll turn it over and I'll put the other one in the back. You want to carefully slide the wheel back over. Make sure that you also want to check the wheel for wear. You can see that this one actually is worn down pretty good too. It's not even catching on the metal drive shaft. So this wheel has to be changed also. So I'll change this one out too. But you can see the teeth on this one compared to the old wheel that's there. Okay, now that I did that, I'll go ahead and put this one back on. Now it's going to be catching. You can see that it caught on the gear. The other one just spun when I put it on. Let's put the shield on there and we'll tighten this up carefully. I usually tighten it by hand first. So I get it going by hand and I'll use the screwdriver at the end to give it the final turn. That way I don't strip it or break it. And I'll just give it a final turn with the screwdriver. And that's good there. I'm going to go ahead and take this one off here on the back. This wheel should pull off pretty easily also. You can see the bearings are worn in this one good. This one here actually stayed on the shaft. I'm going to go ahead and pull it off. And the bearing actually broke off here, so I'm going to get a wrench. I'm going to take the bottom part off here. It's kind of stuck onto the shaft. That will happen if it gets really old. And you can kind of wiggle it around and get it loose, and I can pull it off now, I think. And that's good, that one's off. I'll just insert the new one. And I'll insert the new one on the other side. And we'll slide it back on here. I'm going to go ahead and put the nut back on, tighten it up. Again, I start with my hand and I'll use the screwdriver when I get near the bottom. And when it's flush here, I'll use the screwdriver to give it one more turn. There we go. And now here's the front one. I'm going to go ahead and do the front wheel. Hopefully these bearings come out a little easier than the last ones. Okay, I'm going to pull the tire wheel out. See? And this one came out clean.
This is not
the two bearings in
sorry.
And so out of all those bearings, I got one out clean without breaking. So they were pretty worn out. You can see that all of them pretty much broke, except for this one out of 6. I guess that's one way to tell the bearings are worn, if they all fall apart when you take them out. Put this one back on and make sure again it catches onto that drive shaft. It's pretty easy to put back on. Okay, by doing those 6 you'll get this Polaris moving back again in the pool. You can see that those are really worn out in this one. They don't look worn until you pull them out and you can see that they fell apart. I'm going to do this little wheel here. I'll get this little nut off. Okay, if you want to do the little wheel, you have to take one of these wheels off so you have some slack. So I'm going to take this one off again. Break that bearing out of the small wheel. It should slide up and off. The bearings are really stuck in there, and that's what the problem was. Looks like we had a broken piece in here also.
No.
This thing is pretty old. You can see that this part here is old. You can replace this part if you need to. It's pretty easy to replace. Just the spring and the part right there. This one's pretty stuck on here, so I'm going to use a wrench and kind of twist it off. I'm actually using a razor blade to cut it off because it's not coming off with a wrench. So I got that last plastic piece of the bearing. I'm just trying to cut it off this shaft here. I think I got it. I just had to kind of, I finally got it. I think I cut it and then it's coming off. And that was a little more difficult than I wanted it to be. You can see the bearing just fell apart and I got stuck on that. I'm going to put the new one on. Hopefully that won't happen with the new one. So I got that taken care of. I'm going to put one more bearing in now that I got that one there. Then I'll put this one here on this part of this small wheel. I'll put the nut in there and get everything back together. Shield, and I'm going to put the nut back in the small wheel. This wheel back on also. That's how you change all of the bearings in the Polaris. And this one will be running again fine.